Hi, everybody, and welcome to Authentic Writing in Kindergarten, a professional development session brought to you by the Durham District School Board's Early Years Department. So today we're going to talk about how do we get students interested and excited about writing in kindergarten. My name is Amanda, and my counterpart Diane helped co-create this professional development for you. We're both BCE facilitators in the Durham District School Board. So today we're going to talk about using writing in an inquiry stance, co-constructing the learning environment, and creating a culture of writers. And through this session, I hope that you'll have a deeper understanding of embedding writing in the kindergarten classroom, how to use an inquiry stance to promote writing, and co-constructing learning opportunities with children. Let's first take a look at an inquiry stance. So using an inquiry stance to engage students in writing activities is an integral part of a responsive kindergarten program. But what is an inquiry stance? We use an inquiry stance to engage in a sense of curiosity and wonder alongside our students. And so it's not all about using an inquiry stance for our students, it's also about us. And in an inquiry stance, we use writing as an opportunity for students to record their thinking. So our kindergarten program looks at an inquiry stance as a way for educators in a kindergarten classroom to adopt an inquiry stance, a mindset of questioning and wondering alongside the children to support their learning as they exercise their natural curiosity. In addition to joining the children in inquiry, educators as kindergarten classroom researchers wonder and ask questions about the children and the children's learning, and about the impact of the intervention on children's learning and growth in learning. Being in an inquiry stance is critical to creating the conditions required for inquiry learning. So we want to not only have our students be in an inquiry stance with their own learning, but we want to make sure we're using an inquiry stance when we're looking at the students in our classroom. So thinking about and wondering about what they're interested in, about where their learning is, and how do we promote more learning for them. And how does this happen? How do we get it into an inquiry stance in a kindergarten classroom? We're going to be noticing what the children are interested in, recognizing where the children are in their literacy skills, so their zone of proximal development, and then scaffold their skills. And our kindergarten program on page 66 says all children can benefit from classroom experiences that focus on literacy development. To maintain high expectations for all children, it is important for the educators to build on child's strength and focus on what the child is already able to do, that is to see all children through an asset lens. It is also important for the team to make adjustments to learning opportunities on the basis of ongoing observation, conversations, documentation, and analysis of their observations in order to maintain a zone of proximal development for the child. So we want to notice where they are, and we want to know where they want them to be, and how are we going to bring them there. So why do we want to use an inquiry stance? So when the children are interested in what they're learning about, they will be excited to write about it. A developmentally responsive writing program will enable children to feel empowered and successful. They won't get frustrated by what they can't do. They will be enthusiastic about what they can do. We want our students to see themselves as writers, and to do that, we want to make sure that they are capable and we're not making it too difficult for them and getting them frustrated in this. We want them to be excited about it. So now we're going to talk about our learning environment. And we want to think about co-constructing the learning environments, how we are moving towards including the children in this process, how we're providing materials that encourage children to express themselves, and thinking the environment as both the indoor and outdoor space. So we're going to be asking you to reflect on your learning environment. So does it involve using outdoor spaces when students are writing? Does it involve involving our students in creating the learning environment around them? How are we including them in this? So we're co-constructing our learning environments by moving away from an adult perspective on providing time, space, and activities, and we're moving to co-constructing learning environments with our students, the children. We're going to move from using materials to replicate an adult's idea to providing materials that allow children to express their own ideas, theories, and thinking. So, and we're also going to move away from using the notion that learning only happens in a classroom context. And then we're going to move towards designing indoor and outdoor learning environments that stimulate thinking, curiosity, creativity, and engagement. So, all these things are things for you to reflect on in your classroom. Are you moving away from all the things that are on the left hand side and moving towards things on the right hand side that are here? We're going to take some time right now to reflect on some questions. And I want you to think about what's going on in your classroom right now. Is there anything that you're going to create, work on, make for the classroom? And how have you considered how to include the children in that learning opportunity? So if there's anything that you're going to make for your students, how are you going to include them in that process? And what learning experiences are the children missing out on by not being involved in the process? So if you're creating something for your classroom and you're not involving the students in that process, what are they going to miss out on? Are they going to miss out on some great learning opportunities because you're going to do it on your own by yourself without involving them? So I'm just thinking about creating number posters for the classroom. So I know when I first started my kindergarten classroom, I had these number posters that I created. I bought them or whatever I did, and then I had them up on the wall, and we just had them there for our students to use. I moved towards thinking about these numbers posters as being a great opportunity for our students to create them. Having them involved in the process of creating the number posters gives them the opportunity to work on number sense and collaborative skills that they wouldn't have got if I had just put up number posters that I had created for them. So another example might be that you're really particular about how your sight words are going to be cut out. These are sight words that are going to be a tool in your classroom. They're going to be up, and you want to make sure that they are really accessible and easy for the students to read and to write out. So if you have these sight words that maybe you're going to have your students co-create, but if the student's writing isn't as clear as maybe a printed sight word might be, you might not want to have the students co-creating something like your sight words, but maybe they can be more involved in setting up a sensory table or some Play-Doh. So really think about the different opportunities in your classroom and think about where students can be involved in the process. It might not be everything in your classroom that the students are involved with. Maybe the sight word wall is just something that you need to have a little bit more control of, just so that it is a tool that is useful in your classroom. But the sensory table and making Play-Doh is a great opportunity to involve the kids, and so much great learning can come out of that. So how have you co-constructed your learning centers, your learning goals, some anchor charts, the word wall, and whole group time? Really reflect on that time in those areas in your classroom, and how can you move towards a more co-constructed view of these places? Now let's talk about our learning goals and success criteria. We know that they're really important to our kindergarten classrooms and for the children in our rooms, but we want to move towards that being a co-constructed activity with them. So we're going to make sure that they're connected to the overall expectations and conceptual understandings of the kindergarten program. We have to make sure they're worded in child-friendly language. If we want our students to move towards their learning goals, we need to make sure they understand them. So if we don't word them in a child-friendly way and they don't understand them, they won't be able to have them as a goal. We're going to help children know what they're learning and what is expected of them. So they're not just for us. Our learning goals and success criteria are really for the children in our classrooms so that they can know what they're working on. And they're really important so that they can see themselves as capable and competent learners. We're not going to set learning goals and success criteria that are not achievable to our students. We're going to make sure that they're achievable goals that our students can work towards. And of course, they're going to be co-constructed and fluid. They're going to change over time. So the learning goals and success criteria shouldn't be the same in September and in June. We're going to make sure that they're changing and evolving over time to meet the needs of our students. Now, how do we bring about a culture of writers in our classroom? So, teaching children to write in a play based program by creating a culture of writers, they need to see themselves as writers. So we're going to take a look at some of the materials that we can add into our environment. This is by no means an exhaustive list, just some of the things that we thought of when we were thinking about our classroom environments and some of the things that we would include to make children excited about writing in our classroom. So some of the writing tools you might want to have are some pencils, crayons, markers. Pens are a great way to get students excited about writing. They see them as like an adult tool. I'll put that in quotation marks, an adult tool, because they see us using them all the time and they get really excited to be able to use them because it's not something they might have been available to them before. What about pencil crayons and even stamps are an awesome way to get them excited, and whiteboard markers. We also want to think about the different writing surfaces that we have. So do you have a variety of paper? Do you have different colors of paper, different types of stationery? What do you have available for them to write? Is it just white paper or lined paper? Make sure you have a variety of paper so that they can use ones that are interesting to them. You can also have cards and notepads, some sticky notes, some whiteboards, cue cards, or even an iPad. An iPad is a great writing surface for students to use. There's different apps that you can look up that has students writing on them, and it's just a really great way to get students excited to write is just by using an iPad in your classroom. And making sure we have different writing resources available, some different tools, like having an alphabet that students can see and is accessible to them. So if it's a poster that you have up on a table or some cue cards that you have on a ring, something that students can easily see. Because if it's high up on a wall, are students really able to see what the letter formations are like? Or if you have it at a table where they can bring it close to them and they can really look at each of the letters, which one is more useful to them? Another one that's always a lot of fun is having student names. So I would always have little cards and a picture of each student with their name written next to them. And it was always fun for students to grab name cards of their friends so they could bring them over to when they were writing and use those cards in their writing. Another one is high frequency words. So not even just sight words, words that they use a lot in their writing. And so I had a group of students that love to write about hockey. So I wrote words like hockey on a card and drew a little hockey stick so they knew what it was. And I had all these words on a little ring, on these cue cards on a little ring. And this was our classroom dictionary. So these words that students wanted to use a lot. I think rainbow was on there, sister, brother, mom, dad, all these words that students use a lot in their writing that makes them excited to write because now they know how to write these words that they're interested in writing. What about stencils and books and dictionaries that the students can use when they're writing to use as tools and to look up different words that they might want to be writing? Now I want to take a look at the different surfaces that you have available for children to write on. So do you have any vertical spaces? So a lot of the time students spend writing is down, crouched over a table. Well, what if we move into a vertical space where they're writing standing up or they're writing up against the whiteboard or they're up against a blackboard? Can your students pick different spaces to write at? So a carpet with a clipboard, can they write when they're standing, maybe at a standing table instead, or at a whiteboard? So what are the different surfaces that you have available to your students so that they can write in a variety of different ways? Now the wall space. We talked a little bit about this before when I talked about the number posters and the alphabet posters, but looking at your anchor chart and posters, are they at eye level? Can your students see them? If they're up above on a wall, is that really a tool that they can use if it's really hard for them to see? So, who are the posters for or the anchor charts for that are in your classroom? Are they for the students? Well, consider bringing them down to eye level. Or if you don't have any wall space that is at eye level, because I have been in classrooms where that's more of a difficulty, can you move them into maybe smaller posters that can be put at tables or put them on rings that can be put on a shelf that students can take when they need. So really thinking about what's up on your walls, is it a tool for yourself or is it a tool for students, and really thinking about how that plays into how it is set up in the classroom around you. Now let's take a look at our role as educators and getting our students to write. Let's think about, are we excited when we get a chance to write? showing them an excitement about writing can really have an impact on how they feel about writing. Do you model writing for your students? If we want them to start writing, then they should see us writing authentically throughout the day. We can write genuine messages to the students or other adults in the building. So if a student is bringing you writing or they're bringing you a picture, are you writing back to them in an authentic manner? This is a great opportunity to have a back and forth conversation with your children without using your words and just using writing back and forth. You can also write to other members in your community or with families by writing messages and letters to different family members. Now, here is a part about reluctant writers. So, I know I have had students in the past that even though we have all these materials and spaces to get our students writing, they still don't show an interest in it. So we came up with a few ideas or tricks that you can use to try to get those reluctant little ones to start writing. We want to start by focusing on their interests. So, are they interested in a movie, a cartoon character, maybe in a sport or a hobby? If it's a sport or a hobby like hockey, I would always allow my students to start writing about hockey. They would write about their favorite players, they would write about the hockey game they went to. Whatever it is, if they're interested in it, get them to write about that. It doesn't have to be just what you want them to write about. Make sure they're interested in what they get to write about. Maybe they're just not quite ready to start writing out full sentences or words. Maybe we need to just slow them right down and get them to focus on their fine motor skills. We could be using tweezers or Play Doh or other fine motor activities to get those little muscles in their fingers working and becoming stronger so that then they're able to hold a pencil or a marker and start forming those words. We can also get them excited to write in different contexts. They love going to the building center and creating these awesome structures out of blocks. Well, maybe put some paper and some pencils in that area and get them to write about their structures or draw pictures of their structures and getting them excited about writing wherever they're excited to play or wherever whatever environment they're excited to be in. And maybe that's just a great way to get them to see themselves as as writers and get them excited about writing in different contexts. Start using technology. I talked about iPads a little bit earlier. Maybe they really like to use an app or they like to use an iPad when they're writing. As long as they start writing somewhere and it gets them to see themselves as writer, take that opportunity and use the technology that you have available to your classroom. You can also connect their writing to what is happening in their life. They could be writing letters or talking about their family members. So if there's something happening in their life, they're going on a vacation or they just came back from a vacation, anything that's happening in their life that they're excited about, get them to write about it. Maybe they can write about it and then share it with the class. Maybe they can write a letter to a family member that they're going to visit. Things like that, connecting it back to their family can really make them see themselves as a writer in that context. And maybe we just need to change the space that they're writing in. If you're asking them to write at a table and they really just can't sit and write at a table, we can move to a standing table, we can move outside, we can move to a different area of the classroom, and maybe just changing up that space will get them more excited about writing. Now, I've talked a little bit of both previously about using different apps and using the iPad as a tech tool to get students writing. Poplet, Draw and Tell, and Pick Collage are three apps that we could think of that are a great way to get students to start writing. You could also take pictures in your classroom or even have the students take pictures in the classroom and then print them out and have students write something to go along with those pictures. And you can also use QR codes. These are just some great ways to integrate technology into your classroom and get students excited to write by using these tools that you have available. So, in conclusion, we want you to just think about one thing that you're taking away from this session. What's one thing that you can change or that you can add to your learning environment that you think will promote a culture of writers within your classroom? You don't have to go to your classroom tomorrow and change everything. We don't want that. We just want you to think of one new way that you can promote writing in your classroom or one thing that you're willing to let go of. Maybe you've thought of something in your classroom that just you don't think suits the needs of your students at the moment. Maybe you're willing to let go of that. So thinking of one thing that you're taking away or one thing that you're putting in your classroom, just reflecting on that for your classroom environment. I want to thank you so much for joining us today for this professional development course. I had a lot of fun writing this one and really thinking about how do we promote writing with our youngest learners. And we're always coming up with new professional development courses. And to keep in touch with us and keep up to date with what we're bringing to you, you can find us on Instagram at Twitter, and our handles are DDSB Early Years on both. So I hope to see you there. And if you have any ideas about other professional development courses that you'd like to see from us, please let us know. We're always looking for new ways to bring learning to you.